Welcome to part two. And so this is going to be the fun part, I suspect, where we're actually going to start modeling the surfaces that's going to make up this phone receiver. Okay, so I am going to lock the pattern drawing layer, turn that off. Okay, so based upon our earlier assumptions of symmetry, we're actually going to be modeling only half of this, either this half or the other half. It doesn't matter which, but I'm going to say this half. Um, Model everything that we can up to a certain point, probably up to the receiver endpoints, and then we're going to mirror that over to the other side, and then we will model the receiver bits very, very last. Okay. Now, again, like we said before, Rhino is a surface modeler. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be modeling surface by surface by surface, or sections of surfaces by sections of surfaces by sections of surfaces. Now, the where to start, and that's always the question to ask yourself. Where exactly do I begin? Well, where I'm going to begin is from what is essentially the most known to the least known. And so from the most known is going to be this surface along the back of the handle. And then there's going to be surfaces here on the ends. And then the surfaces of the receivers, both sides. And then the surfaces of the handle. And then mirror from side to side, and then the surfaces for the receivers. Okay. All right. So let's begin. So I'm going to turn off the pattern drawing layer, and I'm going to go ahead and ungroup all of this stuff, and I'm going to select this curve piece and move this down. There we go. Right click on working lines and say copy objects to layer. And I'm going to do that because I also want to move the working lines layer and go ahead and lock the center lines. I don't want to change any of this stuff. All right. But I'm going to make lots of manipulations and changes to the working lines. Okay. So because we're doing half and half, I'm going to type in split, select object, split, select cutting objects, and I'm going to unlock and say that, top curvature. Okay, lock that back. That piece, delete. Oops. Maybe. There we go. Okay. Now, the way we're going to make this curve for the surface is actually fairly simple. We're going to do a revolve. And the center of that revolve is going to be actually the center of this circle here. So I'm just going to give myself a line starting in the center of the circle, going off both sides. Okay, this is going to be my revolve axis. So revolve, select curves to revolve. We're going to say that. Start a revolve axis, end to end, and surface fine, and then we're just going to hit spacebar twice, and that gives us the full round. That's perfectly fine for what we want. And then now, take the surface, and let's purple or green. Purple or green. Let's use green. And we're going to call this surface geometries. Say change object layer. Okay, so that is that. All right, so we're not going to worry about trimming this yet. Um, Further down the line, once we get some more geometry established, then we'll be able to trim this across. So it's going to remain big for now, and that's fine. Next is, if we come over to our images, there we go. We're going to make this surface essentially here. Now, the first time I modeled this surface in relation to this surface gave me a whole heck of a lot of trouble in terms of trying to interpret what exactly is going on. My first assumption, which ended up being wrong, was that this and this were essentially the same thing, built the same way, but that's actually not the case. So what I ended up having to do was build this surface and then build this surface and interpret where that intersection is, or where that intersection was occurring. So that's how we're going to do this as well. So we're going to go back up to the pattern drawing, go to a top view. Oh, and this piece right here, we actually don't need it. It's going to be more of as a visual reference for way down the line. Okay, so we need this curvature here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our circle 3 points. All right, and we're going to say that there, and turn off ortho to there to there. Okay, now we're going to select this circle, move the center, move it to the center line, and we're going to turn off center temporarily. Near is good, and then move with ortho on, something like that. Perfection. And since we're here, might as well do it to this side as well. So circle 3 points, and we're going to do this curvature right here. So we'll say 1, and we'll say ortho off, 2, and 3. Okay, turn center back on. Right, select the center, move it to the center, our established center line geometry, and shift it over just a scotch. But shift it over in a orthogonal method. Right, let's do this one. We'll overdo it and then bring it back. There we go. Perfection. Okay. So now, go back to perspective. We can turn off pattern drawing, and we can turn off center lines. Okay. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a project. Project. Select curves or points to project. We'll select that and that. Select surfaces or poly surfaces, sub D surfaces, meshes, to project onto that. All right, now it's giving us this and this and this and this. Well, we don't need that, and we don't need that. We definitely need this. We definitely need this. Okay. So now let's turn center line geometry back on. All right, so this is the top part of that surface. What we're going to do now is we need the curvature of the receiver going around like this. Now, we established, or we said, we assumed that this is a circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in circle. And actually, we'll do it this way. We're going to say a round curve. And specifically, lock this curve, starting midpoint there, and then out to here. Now, because we set it up, the endpoint of each of these centerline pieces of geometry align with the outside of that circle. Glorious. Okay. All right. So next, we need. All right. Next, we need this curvature. Okay. And let's go to front. All right. Now, let's go ahead and turn off surface geometry. So, how do we want to do this? We could assume that it's an arc of a circle. Actually, yeah. Let's do that first. Let's assume that first. So we're going to come over to here, arc. We're going to say arc, start, end point on arc. So start, and then end point, and then ortho's messing with us. We'll turn that on, off. Oh yeah, there it is. Perfection. That is glorious. Okay. Now, because we established, or we set up, that this side surface was along the YZ origin, it actually is snapping to that plane, which is really, really nice. Helping to aid in our modeling endeavors. All right. So now, okay. Now, if we go back to this image, okay. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. How do we explain this? Okay. So this side surface. Actually, okay, we're going to need the image for this. Okay. So this side surface here, as far as I can tell, is a plane, a consistent plane. Actually, here we go. This surface right here is a consistent angled plane. Now the question is, how does that plane interact with this edge here? I'm going to make the assumption that that this edge that we kind of see is a continuation of the plane that's being established this way. Okay. So what I really mean by that is, if we turn off this and we select that, and we're going to copy that to the working lines, we're going to do another revolve. So we're going to select this, revolve, and start a revolve axis, there to there. Okay. And because this is mostly just, it's going to be, for right now, it's going to be reference geometry. So I don't want it on my green surface geometry layer. So I'm just going to put it on my layer 2, change object layer, purple, nice color, and we're going to call this reference, call this reference surface. Okay. All right. So the reason we have that is so that now, if we turn off this, and we turn off this, actually, no, we don't want to do that quite yet. Okay. We need to know where this surface interacts with this circle here. And we can see it's right there, but we need a specific point. So what we're going to do, intersect, select that surface and that curve, and that gives us 2 points. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to say split. And what we really want for our next operation is this piece of geometry isolated from the surrounding circle. So we're going to select that circle, select cutting objects, this curve here, and this point here. And if it works, one curve split into two pieces. Bam. Okay, now that we have that, let's make some more surfaces. So surface, we're going to do sweep two rails. Select first rail, top, select second rail, bottom, select sweep shape, that, spacebar. Options do not change. Yeah, we don't want that. Rebuild cross sections, we don't need to worry about that. Edge continuity, perfect. Sweep. Okay. Now, we are going to put this on our surface geometry layer. Turn this back on. And then turn this on. Okay. So we said that as far as we can tell, this edge that we see here and here is essentially in line with this angled plane that's forming the handle. Okay, so we're using this purple reference surface to then say trim. Select cutting objects, it's going to be this. All right, turn this back off. Okay, so now this edge is essentially in line with the angle of the handle. All right, so let's do the same thing on this other side. Turn that back on. Circle. A round curve. Select curve. This. Oop, one more time. A round curve. Select the curve. Center of circle is going to be the midpoint. Out to there. Okay. And then let's turn our pattern drawing back on. Go to the front view. Let's make this curvature here. Turn off surface geometry. And since the arc works so well here, we can make the assumption that it's going to work well over here as well. So arc start, end there. Okay, so start of arc, come up to here, end of arc, and there we go. Now, we want that actually to be on our working lines. Okay, so we have that profile. Perspective, turn that back, lock and turn that back off. We'll turn reference surfaces on, intersect, that and that. And we can turn that back off for the time being. And then split, circle, select cutting objects, oops, point, and curvature. There we go. Alright, so surface, sweep two rails, select first rail, up, select first rail, bottom, sweep shape, that, sweep. Alright, let's put this on surface geometry. On, then we're going to say trim, cutting objects, object to trim, boom. Okay. Save. Okay, so we have our front piece of geometry and our back piece of geometry. Now that we have that, let's say trim again. Select that, and then trim. All right. Now let's work on this piece of side geometry here. Now, if we turn on pattern drawing, okay. Now, this is the stage where things start to get weird. One of the questions that I found I was asking myself is, how exactly does this profile curve intersect with this surface here and this top surface here? Now, if we go back to our image, it looks like, again, an assumption to make, it looks like this handle plane continues on till about here, and that there's essentially a fillet, piece of curved geometry that intersects between this angled plane and this curved surface. Okay, so, but if we look at the drawing, it's not drawn that way. It looks as though this curvature comes up to that top part of the handle. So this is where the breakdown begins, and this becomes it becomes more interpretation than the actual looking at or recreating what specifically the drawing has. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we want to recreate this curvature here. And the way we want to do that is let's turn on our reference surfaces again. And we're going to say intersect. And we're going to intersect this angle plane surfaces at the handle and this, unlock this, and because we have it already, this. Okay. And we're going to lock that back. Okay. So we did that so that we can then say we want this curve to terminate somewhere along this blue line here. And we're just going to pick a point. Let's say there. Now this is a guess. All right, so what we're going to do is essentially go ahead and make our profile curve. And let's turn this back on. And let's go ahead and turn off this, and let's go ahead and turn off this. And we're going to make a line starting from the midpoint to somewhere along the edge. Okay, now this is just a piece of setup geometry, because what it's going to allow us to do is do an arc command. Actually, I'm sorry. Click and hold, arc, essentially start, end, point on the arc, start point, end point to something like that. Okay. I think that's going to work. Okay. And we can get rid of that. Right. So now what we want to do is we want to describe, go back to our images. There we go. We want to describe where this curvature goes along this angled plane of the handle. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of interpretation. Right. So this is going to be our start point. We're going to intersect this point up here, and we're going to stop along this curvature here. So let's do this. Let's do a spline for this. And we don't want center. So we want point. Up. And there. Sorry, grabbing my eyeball. Okie dokie. And because it's a spline, we can select the curve and then play around with the control points to soften it or to massage it. Massage it's a better word. Massage it into place. And I think that is going to be what we want. Yeah, that's too much. Okay. Alright, so let's turn that off. Alright, now, this is all wonkified. It's a technical term. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this piece, and we're actually going to project it onto that, onto this. So project, select the surface. Ooh, that is not what we wanted. Alright, so instead of perspective, let's go to front. Alright, this time with feeling. Select curves to project. Select surfaces to project onto. Back to perspective. There we go. Much better. Much better. Okay, now what we really want, zoom in here. What we really want is we want this curvature to intersect right there. Okay. Very nice indeed. Now, if we turn on this and we turn off that, this curve is actually going over this, which is fine, because what we'll do is we're going to say trim, use this surface to trim against, boom. Okay. Now, what we actually need curvature that's following this edge. So we're going to say DUP, duplicate edge. Select edges duplicate. There. Okay. And now, let's turn that off. All right. And I think we can get rid of that. So let's delete that. And that is of no use to us. So we're going to delete that as well. Okay. Okie dokie. So, next question is, what do we want to use to make our surfaces? I think a sweep to rail is going to work for us. Essentially, this will be our rail, this will be our rail, and then this and this will end up being our cross-section curves. Okay, so if that's the case, we need to split this circle apart more. So split, select, and we'll use this point, trim against, boom. Okay, so that, we have that, And we want that. We need to split this so it stops here. So split. Select that. Select this to cut against. Okay. Save, just in case. Surface, sweep to rail. Top rail, bottom rail. Sweep shape 1, sweep shape 2. Okay, well, that didn't work, but it kind of worked. It kind of worked. I guess it didn't like that particular methodology, which is fine. It gave us that, which is what we want. Now we just need to do this. Now, let's do this. Let's go ahead and split this curvature up a little bit more. Select that, split against. All right, surface, sweep 2 rails, 1. Oop. Split this. Oops. Split. Split. Cutting. Okay. Surface, sweep 2 rail, 1, 2, 3. All right. Glorious. All right, so that will go onto our surface geometry layer. All right. We're doing good. We're doing real good. So, essentially what we just did here, we're going to replicate and do the same thing here. So, let's go ahead and turn this back on. And we're going to turn this off temporarily. Zoom in. Okay, so we're going to do this profile first, and then this profile second. All right, so front view. Over to the other side. We're going to do a spline, start point, and interpret. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, let's massage that just a little bit. Okay. So now that we have that, we'll turn that off. Turn on our reference surfaces and say project. Select curves to project. Select surfaces to project onto. Okay. Back to perspective. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Turn that off. Okay. So now we can turn pattern drawings back on. Actually, turn off for just a second. Let's do a point at this intersection, just so it's easier to see and easier to work with. Okay. And then we're going to say line, starting from here, turn pattern drawing back on, go somewhere along the edge. It doesn't really matter where. I'm essentially visually looking for like a midpoint along here, but that also intersects along the edge. Okay. All right, so now turn this back off. We're going to say, actually no, we need that back on. We're going to say arc, start point, end point, zoom in a little bit. So because we can snap along this line, we can make that arc be in line with this angled surface. So now we can turn that off, or actually delete it, and we can actually delete that as well. Let's turn that back on. All right, so we're overlapping a lot there. So we'll trim, select that surface, trim as our trim geometry, and then trim like so. All right, so let's split some stuff up. Or actually, before we do that, duplicate the edge here. We're going to say split. We're going to select that. Use this point to trim with. Boom. Select that. Actually, we can turn this off. Split. Use this to split with. Okay. Now, surface. Sweep two rails. Top, bottom, profile 1, profile 2. Okay, so that gives us that. So now we're going to say split again. Select that. So use that to cut. And we'll need to do the same thing to this one. That. Oops. One more time. Split, cut, geometry. There we go. Okay. Surface, sweep two rails, top, bottom, profile. Very nice. Okay. Select, select, change object layer. Okay. So now, just to see how well we're doing, I'll turn everything else off. Okay. Very nice, very nice. So now, I think what we want to do is this handle geometry here. Okay. Okay. So let's turn that back on. Let's turn that back on. Okay, so let's make this profile line here first. If do a line from here, oops, on our working lines, ortho on both sides. Let's turn this off, it'll be easier to see. Okay, and we'll turn this off. Okay, that actually does not align, and that's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that, and we're going to say arc, start point, end point, point on the arc. So it's just a very slight arc. But that's the way it's set up, so that's what we're going to do to recreate it. And if we look against the drawing, again, interpretation. At this point, the pattern drawing is more for reference than anything else. The actual geometry that we've established is making the decisions essentially for us now, because now we need the surfaces we're going to make here work with everything else. All right. So now, perspective. So now let's make this curvature here and this curvature here. And to do that, let's go to front view. Let's do a let's do a circle tangent to 3 curves. Let's turn this back on. So we want tangency here, and we want tangency there, and we want it on the curvature there. All right, and so it's a little off there, but that should be, no, actually no, that's not okay. Is it okay? It's not okay. It's, well, okay. I think we can make it work. Actually, no. Okay, I don't think this is going to work for us. So let's try a different method. Let's do an arc. And we're going to say there to there. There we go. And ortho's method's messing with us. Turn that off. And yeah, that I think is going to work. But more importantly, everything aligns around this point right here. Okay, yeah, that's what we'll do. All right, so same thing. Arc, start point, middle point, go back to the front view, turn on pattern drawing again, and something like that. Okie dokie. Okay, so that's this part of the curve. Now, the other thing we want to do is the transition. If we go back to our images, the transition of, there we go, yeah. So this point right here, okay, so this is the angled plane of the handle, and this is the curvature of the handle itself. So we just drew this profile that's following along here. But we need this profile that's going along there. Okay, so back to Rhino. Okay, so if we're looking at the drawing, it seems like it's drawn that way. So like this line, or these series of lines following here, seems to be where that transition is. Or another way of saying it is that's what we're going to call the transition. So what we really want is essentially some more geometry along here to help us in our endeavor. So I'm going to say point, and we want to point right there, and a point right there, and a point right there. And we're going to say arc, and start, end, and curve. Okay, so we curve it along that way quite nicely. And then we'll turn back on our pattern drawings, go back to our front view. Move the curvature here to here. So let's do let's see, arc tangent to curves. Ooh, let's try this. So tangent there, tangent there. It's not really working. Okay, let's try. Let's try this. Okay, so let's say tangent to right. Make sure you click on the right curvature. Tangent to there. Actually, no, because we want this point and this point to be reference. Okay, so let's go back to the old standby. Arc. Start point endpoint, and something like that. So what I'm looking for, or what I'm looking at, is the transition from this curvature to this curvature, and how it is looking like it's not having like major kinks, if that makes sense. So let's say that. Okay. So it's, yeah. So from falling here to here, we want a smooth transition, or as smooth a transition as possible. And if we need to, mess around with it, massage it a little bit. Yeah. Something like that. Something like that. And then, same thing again. Arc. Start. End. And something like that. Let's turn that off. Yeah, that looks nice. That looks very nice. Okay. So, let's make some more surfaces. I mean, I think we can turn... No, we need this on for right now. Perspective. Okay. So, we want some curvature to work with. So we want this, and we want this. And we want this, and we want this. And we want this, and we want this. Right-click, copy objects to layer. Okay, so now we can turn that off. All right, so again, we're doing half. So we're going to say split, and we're going to say U, and U, and U. And we're going to use this curvature to split against. And we'll delete that, and we'll delete that, and we will delete that. Now, we want this. Well, we don't need this bit, so we're going to say trim, cutting object, trim there. Okay. And we're going to join that into one, and we're going to join this into one, and we're going to join this into one. And we're going to say this, and this, and this. Now, if you look at it from this direction, how it's not really aligned to anything, it's aligned here, but not against the surface. That's fine for right now. Say join, because we're going to turn our reference surface back on. Go to front view, project, select this, and this. And if we go back to perspective, now it's right up against there. Which is exactly what we want. We can turn that back off. Okay, now we need to do some more splitting. So we want this piece of curvature here, and we want this piece of curvature here. So we're going to say split this, and we'll use this to trim against. All right, we got that. This and that. Okay, save. All right, so let's try to see if we can do this all at once. Surface, sweep two rails. First rail, oh wait, okay, not yet, not yet. 1, 2, 3, join together. Okay, surface, sweep two rails. First rail, second rail. Select sweep shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's cross our fingers. Ooh, very nice. Very nice indeed. That worked beautifully. Okay, so now, change object layer. Let's turn this back on. All right. So now, what we need is this infill right here. Now, in theory, if we've done everything correctly, or hopefully if we've done everything correctly, if we turn on our reference surface, which is actually just that plane, if we say select all of our green and say trim, click that, and doesn't quite work. Why doesn't it work? Well, that's fine. So what we'll do is this. Okay. Oh, that's why. It didn't quite do what we wanted, did it? Okay. All right. So, I spoke too soon, everybody. My apologies. Let's delete that nonsense. Aha. That's why. Okay. Technically, this point should be up here. Okay. Okay. So, let's... Okay. So, we're going to step backwards. Back, 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 back. There we go. Okay. Let's turn this back off. So now we can select that. Actually, we can select that. Move that up to there. And say, move that up to there. Okay. Now we want to go back into our side view. It looks like we may need to massage this just a scotch. Actually, let's go ahead and explode this. Actually, no, we should be fine. Yeah, that looks like a nice transition. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so we want to project this onto our reference surface. So select that, project onto that. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Off. We want to join this together. And that's all joined together. We need to resplit this. That and that. Single piece. That and that. Single piece. Okay. So, this time with feeling. Surface. Sweep two rails. First, second. It doesn't matter which one you click first and second. I don't think so. But you would go start from this end and go all the way down versus like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And now oops. Wrong one. There we go. Oh, shoot. Gosh darn it. Alright. I'm screwing up again. I apologize. Alright. Backwards again. Sorry, guys, I'm thinking. Let's explode this. Let's recreate this. Arc. Start. End. Point. Select, select, select. Join. All right, one more time. Front view, project, that, oops, that, there we go. Okay, I think we got it. All right, split one more time. Split one more time. Whoops. Split. 1, 2, 3. Join back together. Save. Okay. Surface. Sweep 2 rails. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so the edge of this surface is falling along the curvature that we made. Now, the reason we needed all 5 of these curves is the more, especially when you're doing sweep commands, the more curves you have, the better you're able to describe the surface that you're creating. So if we did a surface, sweep 2 rails, use the same rails that we did before, but only did this and this, okay, you can tell that they're not the same at all. Okay, now we have specific geometry, specific references, i.e. where the handle is, in order to make this as accurate as possible. So the more information we throw at the sweep, the more accurate the building of that sweep is going to be. Okay, so we did all that so that in theory, if we turn this back on, we turn this off, we select all of the green, trim, not quite yet. Not quite yet. So let's do this. Let's try this. Let's join all this together. See if that makes a difference. Join, trim. No. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is this. We are going to make some. Actually, let's do this. That, and that, and say intersect. Okay. So that's the problem. Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's try this. Let's turn this off. And let's turn this back on. And this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Okay. Let's turn this back on. Let's see if we can use this to trim against. So, trim. And the fact that I had it already selected, it comes in as my cutting geometry, and then, haha, score. All right. Glorious. So now, turn that onto there. And let's join that together. 4 surfaces or poly surfaces joined into one open poly surface. Glorious. Okay. So now that we have all this, now we can say mirror. And we'll mirror against the middle, across the side, with our orthographics on. All right. And join. Okay. Right on. Fantastic. Now that we have all of that, we can do the very, very last of this. So let's turn this back on. Let's turn this back on. And that is going to be the earpiece and the mouthpiece of the receivers. Now, if we look at, let's do that. All right, so mouthpiece, earpiece. And if we bring this over, Nope, because it's locked. Haha. Unlock, bring over. Okay. Now, this is the maximum bit of interpretation. Well, mild interpretation. The fact that I also have the physical object to take measurements off of is spectacular. All right, so if up to this point we have not measured anything, we have gone off of the drawings, but now that we are going to we need to do interpretation and have it interpret against a known dimension, like the size of this circle, the depth of this piece right here. We want to make this to a known scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn everything on. Now, and actually, we're going to select everything and group it. We're going to turn this off. Now, this edge here to this edge here, whenever I measure it off the physical object, from here to here is 7 3/8 of an inch. So that's 7.375. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a piece of geometry, a polyline, starting here, going over this way. 7.375, which is 3/8 in decimal form, and it's going to come out this way. Okay, I'm going to select this, scale, there we go, and start point, end point, down to there. Almost. Yeah, that works. That works. Okay. So now this has been scaled to the physical object. Okay, so any dimensions we now need to take off the object and then model in are going to be accurate. Okay, so let's turn this back on. And let's turn this off for the time being. And let's go ahead and ungroup. And let's go ahead and make a circle here. Okay, circle. And we'll say, let's say a round curve, which is how we made it last time. There. Start point. Actually, let's turn this off. So we can see. Midpoint. Okay. And we'll do the same thing on this side. A round curve. There. There. To there. Okay. Okay. So now, I'm going to take this curve, come over to our pattern drawing, front, move, following along the center line, down this way. And the same thing over here. Okay. So now we need to recreate this. Now, what I think is we will actually attempt to. Okay, this looks like part of an arc. And we got this piece right here. So what we're going to do is arc, start point, and we're going to do a little bit of interpreting. Ortho off. Do something like that. Something like that. Okay, so we overbuilt it. That's fine. And we're going to assume that this curvature here and this curvature here is the same. So we're going to say select the curve. We're going to say mirror there to. Well, that's actually not the case. It seems interesting. Very interesting. Okie dokie. Let's think about this for a second. Okay. All right. We are going to fake it. We're going to say line, just a straight line. There to there. Yeah. Actually, we'll do this in perspective, I think. Let's delete that. Let's lock pattern drawing. Okay. So what we're going to do, line from there to there. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. line from there to there. Okay, this works. And then we're going to say line across from there. This is just to help us build stuff. Okay. And actually, now that we have that, let's go back to the pad drawing. Actually, let's copy and delete, because that'll make this much easier. Oh, wait, whoops. Did I screw that up? Did I kind of screw that up? Aha, I was looking at the wrong side. There we go. Line there to there. Then there to there. Okay. Okay. And then line across like so. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. Let's turn that back on. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're going to hide them temporarily. And we're going to go to the front again. Let's say fillet. And let's make a guess. Let's say an eighth of an inch, 0.125. Let's say one more time, 0.125. That and that. Oh, oh, that's quite nice. Okay. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, okay. Earpiece, mouthpiece. If we look at our picture, earpiece, mouthpiece. This has a depression with a circle and like an angled surface. This is measuring 3/4 of an inch at a depth of 5/16 of an inch. So what we're going to do is we're going to say circle, starting at the midpoint. Making sure I'm not didn't screw anything up. I think we're all right. I think we're all right. Okay. Circle, midpoint. Actually, okay. Okay, circle. Round curve. This curve at midpoint. Okay, something's not right here. It's not aligned. Why aren't you aligned, friend? That's why it's not aligned. Interesting. All right, well, we can fix that. That. And that. Let's turn pat drawing back on. Go back to the front. And we're going to say project onto that surface. There we go. That's what we wanted. Turn that off. Oh, whoops. Aha, whoops. So that and that going back onto here. Turn that back off. Okay. Once more. Circle. A round curve. This curve at the midpoint. Diameter is 0.75 inches. Okay. Take this. I'm going to shift this up. Move. Nope, not mirror. Move. Up. 5/16 in decimal form is 0.3125 inches. Don't ask me how I know, but I know. Okay. So now, if we go back to our picture, right, there's a little bit of a flat beyond the fillet, and this is measuring 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so we're going to say from there, 0.25. Oops. Okay, polyline, not line. Start point, 0.25. Then up to here, and then into the center. Okay, now we want perpendicular on. Boom. Okay. Now let's explode this, because we can get rid of that. What we really want is this. Join. Let's do a fillet again, just to soften this up a little bit and to soften that up a little bit. Revolve, select, access. Oh, there we go. All right, turn that back onto there. Turn this on. Oh, there it is. Beautiful, beautiful. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on this side. Turn this off. And I think we can turn this off. No, we don't. We need that. Okay, so this is curved this way. And it looks like the top of this surface is in line with the flats here. All right, and then so just like on this side, about 1/4 of an inch flat, and then curving in this way, about 1/8 of an inch deep. So what we're going to do is we're going to explode this. Select this little bitlet. We're going to say line, and I'm going to say 0.25. Go to front view. We're going to say mirror, and in theory, go to the midpoint. Yeah, the smart track will let us go, so that's perpendicular to that line. Okay. I'm going to take that. Actually, we just need this. Take this, mirror, across that center line. Okay. So now we're going to say arc, there, to there, to there. Okay. And let's make sure. All right, yep, we're aligned. Okay. And I think, so if we go back to the image, this has a little bit of a softness in here. So we're going to say fillet. Oops, not fill. Fillet. Instead of 1/8 of an inch, let's make it a 1/16, which is 0.0625. Why is it doing that? I don't know. 0.0625. There we go. So we'll say there and there. Yeah, that looks nice. There and there. Okay, so now if we say split, select this, select that. Okay, so we can select that, and that, and that. And go back. And we can say join. Oops, spelling is important. Okay, revolve. Start of axis, 1, 2, space, space. Fantastic. There. And there. Okay. And with that, let's turn this off, and this off, and this off. We have a fully modeled phone receiver. Now, in thoughts, this video is longer than I anticipated, but essentially this is an unedited version of me going through and modeling this particular bit and running into issues through the process. Okay, now running into issues is going to be par for the course. There is no way around it. Even with our best laid intentions, we run into problems. And there's no real getting around that. But the real takeaway is, how do we overcome that? And it's just what I think. It's just try things, and you try things, and you try things, and you try things. Now, you saw that I had to go back several times and rebuild curves because I wasn't paying attention to how I built them before. So this handle transition, it took me 3 attempts, maybe 4, I forget. Enough. It took more than one, in order to get it to work. And that's fine. It's not a problem that it took me multiple attempts. Best laid plans, but there you are. So I hope this helped. And we will do another session with other geometry as necessary. All right, guys. I will see you later.